contain calories. Our body is going to break down both of those foods roughly the same way. The bread might take a little longer to digest because it has fiber, but our body breaks them both down and uses them for energy. Now the bread, the whole wheat bread, is going to have more vitamins and minerals, things like that. The cookie probably won't have a lot. But as long as you're not eating a diet that's 100% cookies, as long as you're choosing other foods throughout the day that meet your performance needs, foods that have protein to rebuild and repair your muscles, fruits and vegetables that give you those antioxidants, then I'm not worried about having a cookie every once in a while. We know that if it fits within the amount of energy our body needs, it's not going to affect our weight. We know that if we get our vitamins, minerals, fiber from healthy foods in our diet, then that cookie's just fine. And when we know this, we can choose our foods in moderation, the way that we want to, and we don't need to be fearful of any one food causing weight gain or causing negative things to our body, because we know that all foods fit. We just have to decide when we want to fuel with the purpose of becoming a better athlete and fueling our bodies, and when we want to have a treat that fuels our social life and our happiness and all that good stuff. Another thing is we need to find nutrient-dense foods we like. So if you've heard kale's a superfood and it's really good for you, but you hate kale and it's terrible and you never ever want to eat it, that's okay. You don't have to. What you do have to do is find a veggie you do like and get those nutrients from somewhere. So no good foods, no bad foods. We just need to fuel with a purpose and eat in a balance. All right. Last thing, hydration. Who's got a water bottle? Hold it up if you have one. You guys are doing pretty good on that. I think the women's cross country and track, almost everyone had one. Boys cross country and track, not so much. Girls tend to be better at this. Carrying a water bottle throughout the day is super, super important. Who's ever showed up to practice dehydrated? How does it feel? Really bad, right? So we know that if we're dehydrated, our performance is worse. We know that we can become more sore if we exercise while dehydrated. And we know that we can fatigue faster. So we're not going to make it through that game or practice still performing at our best because we're tired. And then of course, heat cramps, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, we don't want that to happen. Not good. So what can we do about it? I think hydration is one of the simplest ways an athlete can improve their performance because there's two main rules. We gotta hydrate early and we gotta hydrate often. So I recommend waking up, having a drink of water first thing in the morning. Has anyone ever made it to like 1 or 2 in the afternoon and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't had any water? Some of us have done that. And at that point, it's too late, we can't make up for it, or we're gonna be dehydrated at practice. So if we can wake up, have water first thing in the morning, and keep our water bottle handy, then you guys are doing something that a lot of other college athletes aren't doing. You're caring about your hydration, and you're being mindful of it, and that's setting you up to be doing better than your competition. People often ask me how much water they should be drinking. I'd say if you have one of those 32-ounce water bottles, getting through 2 of them to 3 in a day is a good place to start. Having half the bottle before practice and half to a full one after practice. So when I say before, I mean like in the hour leading up. That's generally a good way to make sure that you are hydrated for your sport. So be mindful of your hydration. It really does make a difference. And it's something easy that's in your control that you can do to become a better athlete and to be healthier. All right, energy balance, check. Food choices, check. Any questions on food choices before we go on to nutrient timing? Who learned something they didn't know? Yay! We're right on track. We're doing good then. Okay. Nutrient timing, just like hydration, is something that I think a lot of college athletes aren't doing a good job of right now. And that's because life as a college athlete is hard. We've got a lot on our athletes, we're juggling a lot of things. We got a lot going on. If you can work on your nutrient timing, you're putting yourself in a position to perform better, to recover faster, and to meet your energy needs so that you're healthy and you're avoiding underfueling. A lot of college athletes aren't doing this. So, the best sports nutrition research we have shows that an athlete needs fuel 5 to 6 times a day, or every 2 to 4 hours, to perform, recover, and maintain a good body composition. So, sometimes people look at me and they're like, that's a lot of food. And I say, that doesn't necessarily change the research. So, the reason that it supports our performance is because every 2 to 4 hours, depending on if we're in heavy training, our metabolism is probably faster, more close to that 2. If we're in an off-season or light training, it's probably slower, closer to that 4. If we eat carbs, our body will use them to raise our blood sugar, keep it nice and stable, and then it's going to fall. If we eat on a regular basis, our blood sugar stays stable throughout the day. That keeps us fueled so we can perform. So our body and mind can stay sharp, can stay engaged. If we go like 8 hours without eating, our blood sugar crashes. And when we have low blood sugar, we're shaky, we're tired, we're lack of focus, we don't have that energy to perform. So eating on that 2 to 4 hour window keeps our blood sugar stable. It also helps us recover. We know that our body breaks down the protein we eat, uses it to rebuild and repair from our workouts on a similar window, that 2 to 4 hours. So if we go like 10 hours without eating protein, we've had times where our body is ready to use that protein to rebuild and repair, and we didn't give it any protein, so we kind of missed out on that recovery opportunity. Now, the third thing is body composition. When we eat on a regular basis, consistent meals and snacks throughout the day, our body says, I don't need to hang on, I don't need to store any nutrients. I can use those carbs to keep my blood sugar stable. I can use that protein to rebuild and repair, because I'm gonna get another meal or snack in 2 to 4 hours. If we regularly go like 6, 8, 10 hours without eating, our body doesn't trust us quite as much. Our body's like, well, finally we're getting some food, but it might be another 8 hours till I get some food again, so I'm just gonna hang on to this. I'm not gonna use it to rebuild and repair and recover, because I'm a little nervous that I won't get another source of food for a while. So the more consistent we can be, the better we feel, the better we perform, and the healthier we are. So I like to show this to athletes because as busy college students, sometimes we get into a routine that looks a little bit more like this. We're super busy in the first half of the day, so we might skip breakfast, get some coffee to give us that energy, don't have a lot of time between classes for lunch. Then we show up to practice and we are pretty tired, pretty hungry, but we push through it. Maybe we don't do our best in that workout because we are tired, but we get through it. Then nighttime rolls around and we're starving and we want to eat everything in the kitchen, and then we eat everything in the kitchen and we're still not full. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Has anyone been here? It's super common, especially for athletes. So what this means, a lot of people say, oh my gosh, I feel so bad, I overeat at night, I just eat too much food, and I don't know why I do it. That's really normal, really common for athletes, and the reason that we do that is because we didn't have enough fuel in that first half of the day when our body was really asking for it, when it would have made the most difference to give us the energy to perform and the fuel to recover. But our body's kind of like a caveman. We've got caveman brain, and it's saying, I need a certain amount of food, you didn't give it to me, so I am going to find that food now. And our body's going to look for that energy and ask for it. So if we can distribute it a little bit more evenly and get fuel in the first half of the day, we have more energy to perform, we feel better, we do better at practice, and then when evening rolls around, we'll still be hungry after practice, right? Like, that's normal. But we probably won't feel so ravenously hungry. And our recovery will probably be a little bit better too. So of course, we never need to be perfect. We don't all need to have evenly spaced out meals and snacks all the time. But I do encourage you guys to think of ways that you can fuel a little bit more consistently throughout the day, whether that means being prepared by packing your lunch, whether it means keeping snacks in your backpack or your gym bag. Whatever you can do to kind of make yourself a little bit more consistent can be helpful. So I'm going to show you guys what this looks like. We'll do a couple examples, and then we'll see what questions you have. So I always say that athletes should try to include each nutrient at each meal. The reason for that is because we learned that each nutrient has a purpose. So if we leave carbs off our plate, then we won't have the energy for our brain and body. If we leave protein off our plate, we won't have the fuel to rebuild and repair. Same thing goes with fats and our fruits and veggies. Now, what do we notice as we go from light to heavy training about our carbs?
They increase.
They increase, right? Why is that?
Energy.
Yes, and the harder we train, the more we move, the more we need. What do we notice about protein?
It's the same.
It does. And the reason for that is because our body really likes us to break down that protein throughout the day. So if we can have a moderate amount at each meal, our body will use it better than if we don't have any protein at breakfast, don't have any protein at lunch, and then have like an 8-ounce steak at dinner. Our body can only use so much in one sitting. Now you'll notice that veggies go down as we go from light to heavy training. As a dietitian, I never say eat less veggies. But I do say if your whole entire plate's veggies and you don't have room for your carbs, protein, and fats, then your body's not getting what it needs. We also know that veggies are lower in calories than our other nutrients. So if we have a big plate of veggies and we don't have those other nutrients, we're at a greater risk for underfueling and all those signs and symptoms that go along with it. So, a couple examples. I had an athlete who was like, Becca, you'd be so proud of me. I ate a salad. And I was like, that's so great. What's on your salad? And she said, lettuce. And I said, what else? And then she named every vegetable under the sun. But what I didn't hear was a carb or a protein or even a fat. It was a very sad salad. How could we make our salad into a plate that's good for an athlete? What protein could we add? Chicken. We could add fish. We could add turkey. We could add beans, tofu, lentils, all sorts of different things. But we need to have a protein to rebuild and repair. Now, how could we add carbs? I always get croutons. Every group says croutons. So croutons are great. They're a source of carbs. Unless you're having like an entire cup of croutons, I would say it's probably not enough carbs to fuel you as an athlete. So definitely do the croutons, but we probably want to have something else on the side. So that could be some bread, a dinner roll, a potato, a sweet potato. You could put a scoop of rice or quinoa on your salad, but something to give you carbs. And then we want to have our dressing on there, right? Don't be afraid to choose the dressings that have fat in them. They are going to help you absorb those nutrients. All right, who knows how to cook pasta? Yes. I had an athlete who was like, Becca, I'm a chef. I learned how to cook. And I said, what can you cook? And he said, pasta. And I said, what else? And he said, well, nothing. But I can make pasta. And I said, that's a great place to start. So as an athlete, pasta is great. It helps us get our fuel that we need. What can we add to it? I think we have someone who's logged out. What can we add to our pasta to make it a full plate for an athlete? What nutrient is missing? Protein, right? We probably want some protein. How can we add that? Meatballs. You guys are just on the exact same page. Every group has said meatballs. So we can certainly add our meatballs to give us some protein. We could also do a meat sauce. We could do grilled chicken. We could even do lentils, beans, some sort of vegetarian protein if we wanted. To add some healthy fats, we could add olive oil, we could add cheese, something like that. Tomato sauce technically counts as a vegetable. It has antioxidants. If we wanted to make it more of a light training plate where half our plate is veggies, we could add a side of like broccoli or peas or carrots, whatever veggie you really like. So just something to keep in mind. We want to have that balance. Who eats a snack before they work out? Who thinks that it would upset their stomach or they're kind of worried about that? So I have a lot of athletes who don't eat before practice and they're fearful of their stomach hurting. What I usually say that everyone has a food that will sit well with them before practice. Sometimes we just have to figure out what it is. And when we do have a food, a quick carbohydrate source, 30 to 60 minutes before practice, it tops off our fuel and keeps our blood sugar stable so that we